All right. And, I love coming here to this friendly tavern. But every week we come in and we tell them we're going to have our monster discussion group. And for whatever reason, they put us right here next to the stage. So, everybody grab your mugs. Come on with me. We're going to go over to this table over here by the fire. Yeah, this one right here. This one here. Yeah, that's right. Okay, everybody, go ahead and sit down. All right. All right, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Monster Monday. My name is DM Galabon, and this is Monster Monday for May 30th, 2022. And tonight we are going to be talking about the monster for D&D that is called Amon the Wolf. Amon the Wolf, which did not always start off as a wolf. In fact, it was very different from a wolf for several thousands of years of his mythological origins. All right, so strap in and let's see what this Amon the Wolf is all about. Wait a minute, that doesn't look like a wolf. No, it doesn't. That looks like an Egyptian. Yes, it does. Because Amon the Wolf, in culture and literature, Amon also spelled with two A's, M-O-N, and spelled A-M-U-N, is one of the oldest entities to be distilled into a stat block for the D&D game. Now, according to the Wikipedia article, all right, you know, I have to build these presentations in a week. I don't have time to go spend 3 days at the library digging through all of the ancient literary texts, but according to Wikipedia, Amun is the same entity that the ancient Egyptians called Amun, and he is revered as their supreme deity, or he was eventually revered as their supreme deity. Now, originally, Amun was depicted with red-brown skin, but after the Amarna period, he was painted with blue skin, symbolizing his association with air and with primeval creation. Amun was also depicted in a wide variety of other forms, namely forms that incorporated a human body and an animal-like head. But none of those heads were wolf heads. So Amun Ra, a later incarnation from when Amun was fused with the sun god Ra, saw Amun become the primary Egyptian creator god and spiritually at the head of the pantheon, similar to Zeus of the ancient Greeks. Now, in non-human guises, Amun was sometimes depicted as having a sphinx-like or leonine body and a ram's head, but as Amun-Ra, he's also sometimes depicted with the body of a human and the head of a hawk. So then there's both an Amun-Ra and an Amun-Re, which seem to be just two different spellings of the same entity, but not being an Egyptian scholar, it may actually be that Amun-Ra and Amun-Re are two completely different entities. So, in the guise of Amun-Re, he was petitioned for mercy by those who believed suffering had come about as a result of their own or others' wrongdoing. And there was this really cool quote that was pulled out in the Wikipedia article. And it says, Amun-Re, who hears the prayer, who comes at the cry of the poor and distressed, beware of him. Repent, or repeat him to son and daughter, to great and small. Relate him to generations of generations who have not yet come into being. Relate him to fishes in the deep, to birds in the heaven. Repeat him to him who does not know him, and to him who knows him. Though it may be that the servant is normal in doing wrong, yet the Lord is normal in being merciful. The Lord of Thebes does not spend an entire day angry. As for his anger, in the completion of a moment there is no remnant. As thy Ka endures, thou wilt be merciful. So, now this is Amon the Wolf, who Gary Gygax brings into D&D as a devil. But mythologically speaking, going to his earliest origins, he is this apparently merciful, compassionate creator type god of the Egyptians. So it's kind of weird how it makes this transition. So I was like, all right, where are we going here? And so I kept having to read down, 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 and then go and look at some of the bibliographical sources for the Wikipedia article and try to figure out where this is going. All right. So, anybody who's taken high school humanities and studied anything about Egypt, you already know there's too many stories about Amun or Amun-Re or Amun-Ra from Egyptian mythology to be included here. So I'll let you go ahead and do your own research if you want to be inspired by that ancient culture to use Amun or Amun in your campaign as a deity. So, in addition to Amun, there is speculation that Amun, as a figure of a devil or demon, is also inspired by the mythological Baal Haman of Carthage. Now, Baal was an ancient Phoenician deity, and archaeologists and mythology scholars have attributed the Haman in the Carthagian name with the Egyptian deity Amun. Again, this Baal Haman is depicted as a man with ram's horns, and there is not an association yet with wolves in this line of the mythology. Now, those are kind of like the ancient things, and then, of course, the Wikipedia article does this annoying thing, which it does, and it skips from those ancient sources all the way to the Middle Ages. So the earliest wolf-like aspects of Amun seem to date from 1583. Now, a fella named Johann Weir published a work called the Pseudomonarchia Demonium, and that one lists Amun as a marquis of hell. And about him, the work says, Amun or Amon is a great and mighty marquis, and cometh abroad in the likeness of a wolf, having a serpent's tail, vomiting flames of fire. When he putteth on the shape of a man, he showeth out dog's teeth, and a great head like to a mighty night hawk. He is the strongest prince of all other, and understandeth all things past and to come. He procureth favor, and reconcileth both friends and foes, and rule 40 legions of devils. So again, this is kind of weird. So this is a devil, yet a devil that kind of deals in reconciliation between friends and foes alike. Hmm. Well, definitely, see, he's the devil of lawyers then, because contracts is how you have agreements between parties that disagree. So this guy is definitely the one that all those lawyers you see advertising on TV, this is the one that they all pray to. All right, that's just my speculation here. All right, now this is a woodcut engraving from the 1583. Now, the previous images that we've seen are all, kind of hearkening back to ancient Egyptian sources or reprints of images that have been found in Egyptian ruins and things of that nature. But this is sort of a picture that is based on that description in the 1583 work. So he's got kind of the lion's body, but only 2 forelegs. He doesn't have back legs. The back half of him ends in that serpent thing. And then he's got this weird head that, it's not exactly canine. It's kind of more like an owl than anything else. And then it's got the beak, and it's kind of hard to see there, but I'll point it out a little bit with the arrow here. It coming down from the top beak and coming up from the bottom beak are these wolf-like teeth. So He still has kind of a bird-like head and a beak, but he's got wolf's teeth. All right. I don't know. I don't make this stuff up. This is just what this is what I'm saying. I don't know what these guys in the Middle Ages were smoking and where they come up with this stuff. All right. So then there's an anonymous mid 17th century work called the Lemegeton Clavicula Solemnaeus, or the Lesser Key of Solomon, and that reprinted most of the earlier pseudo-monarchia, but it also added images and sigils or seals for each of the 72 entities it purported to catalog. Now, some of you may also be aware that in 1904, there was an updated or 20th century version of the Lesser Key of Solomon, printed in English, that was written by a Scottish author and published by the sort of occult figure, Aleister Crowley. So, uh, and Crowley did a whole bunch of other weird stuff and everything. So, take this for what you will. All right. So later translations and editions of the Lesser Key of Solomon also stated that Amon can also enable the magician to summon and interrogate the spirits of those who drowned at sea. So he's got this weird portfolio. He's a deity of creation to the Egyptians. He's a devil that somehow deals in reconciliation between parties that don't get along. He's apparently got some compassion, and now, he'll let you go and talk to people who died at sea. Hmm. So, in the Dictionary Infernal by Jacques Collin de Plancy in 1818, Amon gets a promotion. Now, he started off as a marquis in hell, but now he's a prince in hell. And he retains his 40 legions of demons. You know, authors in the Middle Ages, they use demons and devils interchangeably. Now, we in D&D, we know there's a big difference. Demons are chaotic evil, devils are lawful evil. You can't trust either one of them because, but you do know that devils will stick to the letter of the contract. The thing is, you have to really read that contract really, really carefully to find what all the loopholes are that they built in for themselves. So, that's the thing you have to worry about when you're dealing with devils. Demons, they're just batshit crazy. That's the thing with them. So, he's also an entity that many looked to reconcile friends and foes and procure love for those seeking it. Hmm. All right. So he's the eHarmony guy. He's the patron of lawyers. He's a creator. He runs around with 40 legions of devils or demons. Take your pick. Yeah. All right. So this guy, he's like, you know, he's like a modern day. He's like a modern day star athlete or a modern day rapper who just has his fingers in all kinds of different fires. He's got all of his different income streams going on. So it's unclear from my limited research how the iconography went from hawks and rams to wolves between the Egyptians and the Middle Ages, but this later iteration of Ammon seems to be where Gary Gygax drew his inspiration when he first wrote of Ammon in an article for Dragon Number 75 in July of 1983. So now we get to where Ammon comes into D&D. So, the in 1983, he was mentioned two places. One is in this article, which was actually kind of an excerpt for a new source book, which was the Monster Manual 2, that was coming out in the same year. So Gary Gygax wrote this article entitled New Denizens of Devildom, a partial preview of the Monster Manual 2. So Gary Gygax gives us this description, and we get this illustration here. Ammon is a vessel of Geryon, mustering and commanding up to 40 companies of bone devils recruited from his fief. He is large and strong, typically attacking with a huge +3 mace and a vicious bite as well. A winter wolf of the largest size serves him as a companion and guardian. Amon is wolf headed but otherwise appears human. His torso is well formed and muscled. So we see him standing here, kind of in that, athlete smug pose with his wolf head and his well formed torso, human torso. So, when the Monster Manual 2 was published the same year, it gave Amon a mechanical +3 bonus to hit and damage, which back in those days, that was big. Um, and said that he was 25% magic resistant. That means you try to cast a spell at him, DM rolls a percentile die. If it's 25 or lower, the spell just fizzles. You cast it, but it just like washes over him. Doesn't even matter. He just completely ignores it. So Amon causes fear in any individuals he gazes upon unless they make a saving throw versus spells. And once per day, Amon can use a symbol of hopelessness. He can summon 1 to 4 bone devils with 60% chance of success. Amon is able to regenerate 1d12 points of damage per turn, which is not the per 10-minute turn. This is every turn during combat, so every round. On the prime material plane, Amon can summon and control all wolves within 1 mile of him. And he has the following at-will spell abilities he could use once per round, casting as if he were a 20th level magic user. So he can animate dead, charm monster, detect magic, detect invisible, dispel magic, fly, gesh, no alignment, polymorph self, produce flame, read languages, read magic, suggestion, teleportation, wall of ice, and fulfill another's limited wish. All right, so he's quite the powerful creature. All right, so now he also reappears in second edition. Now he is most completely detailed in an adventure called A Paladin in Hell, and we've referenced that before when we did the show on Garyon a couple of months ago. So Amon is detailed in A Paladin in Hell, where he is lounging in his quarters when the PCs first begin attacking Cold Steel, which is Garyon's citadel in Stygia. So Amon is 9 feet tall when he stands erect. His muscular, human-like body is topped with the head of a graceful and terrifying white wolf. His gigantic mace bears the iron visage of a wolf at the end of its long shaft. Always standing at his side, Amon's winter wolf companion, Solfang, reaches his master's chest in height. So Solfang's collar glistens with 6 1,000 gold piece diamonds. All right, so yeah, that winter wolf has a really nice collar. So, as detailed in A Paladin in Hell, he's said to have aided his deposed former, or the deposed former leader of Stygia, which is the 5th layer of Hell, in constructing his fortress Cold Steel that Garyon hopes to use to overthrow Levistus and retake control of the plane, or that level of Hell. Now, Amon is also briefly mentioned in a second edition supplement called Faces of Evil, The Fiends, which was published for the Planescape setting. In this work, he is said to have defected from his former lord Garyon. Levistus, Lord of the Fifth, had gained the services of Amon the Wolf, and the new Lord of the Fifth relies on the wolf's keen senses to sniff out the schemes of his enemies all across Stygia. So, again, this guy might be playing both sides. That's why I say he's probably the one that lawyers look up to. All right, so, and now we come to his tactics. In A Paladin in Hell adventure, the DM receives some stage directions for Amon. So, Amon enjoys wading into melee, biting foes, and smashing them with his huge mace at the same time. Amon usually reserves his limited wish ability for circumstances that truly threaten him or Solfang, particularly Solfang. DM should remember that Amon is a devil and thus has all the powers and immunities of creatures with that distinction. If given the time and opportunity, Amon will go to his hidden treasure trove to use the potions hidden there. All right, so we get a little bit more about Amon here. All right, now, there was a supplement that came out in 3rd edition called Archfiends, which is a web supplement for the Book of Vile Darkness. Now, this woodcut here is also from that Lesser Key of Solomon, and this is the supposed sigil for Amon. All right, so because they gave an image of Amon, which is that kind of half lion, bird headed, wolf toothed snail or snake tailed critter. That was his picture, and this is supposed to be the symbol. So in Archfiends, Amon is described as a huge humanoid figure covered in fur with a massive wolfish head. His mouth is full of jagged teeth, and his eyes glisten like ice. Normally accompanying him is a huge 18-hit die winter wolf. And in the same 3rd edition source, Amon is said to be Garion's most powerful servant and most trusted ally, and he's given the title of Duke. He is a unique creature who was also deposed at Garion's ousting. Now, he has a fear aura like his 1st edition namesake, this time with a 20-foot radius, and a will save DC 26. So he's quite powerful. He also gains traits of the Batezu fiends, meaning he's immune to fire and poison, resist 20 cold and acid, perfect sight in any natural or magical darkness, telepathy out to 100 feet. He carries a gargantuan +3 mace, and due to his outsider nature, he cannot be raised from the dead or resurrected. So Amon also retains his spell-like abilities from his earlier version. At will, animate dead, blasphemy, charm person, cone of cold, create undead, desecrate, detect good, detect magic, dispel magic, fly, improved invisibility, magic circle against good, minor image, polymorph self, suggestion, teleport without error, his self plus 50 pounds of objects only, unholy aura, unhallow, wall of ice. And once per day, he can do limited wish and symbol of hopelessness. He does all of these as an 18th level caster. His spell save is DC 14 plus the spell level. Now, Amon, to my knowledge and to the best that I could find, with researching various different D&D lore sites, there was no reference to Amon in any official 4th edition source books. I try not to go and look at stats for things that are homebrew because those, you know, who knows what the DM needed when they created it. So they might create a much more powerful version or a much weaker version, and may not have any bearing as to what the designers at Wizards of the Coast would think. So I don't think Amon appears in a 4th edition source book, and he's not yet appeared in any 5th edition source book. So tonight, instead of doing a reskinning of Amon, we'll actually look at the stat blocks from the previous versions and try to build a 5th edition version of Amon the Wolf and see what we could do. All right, so creature type, like I said, he doesn't exist in 5th edition, but if he did, he'd be a fiend. And his creatures of wickedness, native to the lower planes, few are the servants of deities, many more labor under the leadership of archdevils and demon princes. Evil priests and mages sometimes summon fiends to the material world to do their bidding. If an evil celestial is a rarity, a good fiend is almost inconceivable. Fiends include demons, devils, hellhounds, rakshasas, and yugalas. Oh, phooey, I haven't had my monitor on here, so my apologies if I have been missing If I have been missing any questions. All right. Okay. I don't see any questions yet. All right. Go ahead and throw in any questions that you guys may have as we go along, and we'll try to answer those in our Q&A session. All right. So I'm trying something a little bit different in Monster Monday. This is sort of the transition period. We're finishing out our after we do Amon, we're going to finish out the new monsters from Strixhaven, and then we're going to kind of transition to looking at a different way of examining the monsters and focusing more on reskinning different variations of the monsters. So, to do that, what I want to do is simply take a look at the stat block highlights of the monsters in the various different editions, and then use those to help us build variations of them for the 5th edition game. All right, so Amon in 1st edition, he had an armor class of -2. Basically, if you're not familiar with those old things, the way I like to think of it, armor class 0 was kind of like armor class 20. And the lower the armor class, the better. So an armor class -2 would probably be like an armor class 22, 23 in the 5th edition game. At 126 hit points, which doesn't sound like a lot for a creature like that, but then again, the hit point economy was much different in 1st edition than it was in some of the other editions. His attack bonus was +3 for his mace and +3 for his bite. His damage bonus was +3 for his bite, +7 for his mace, and then his full attack included his bite, his mace, and a spell. He was 25% magic resistant. His special attacks was a fear aura and spell casting, and then per round he was able to do all of these things. Now notice in the original edition that limited wish was something he could do every round. Now in 2nd and 3rd edition I was like, whoa, wait a second, that's way too powerful. So they changed that to once per day. And then spell-like abilities, once per day he could summon 1d4 bone devils, and with 60% chance of success. So basically, he's got those guys on retainer. He puts out a call, and 60% of the time, they don't have anything better to do, or they are compelled to come to him. The other 40% of the time, they either have been called by somebody more powerful, or are like, hey, I'm busy. I can't come right now. And because of their contract, they have a loophole, and they don't have to show up. All right. And then other special abilities he has in 1st edition include the ability to regenerate 1d12 hit points per round. So 2nd edition, not a whole lot changes. A little bit of a change. So -2 armor class, 126 hit points, 20 hit dice. So his attack bonus, his Thaco is 3. So now you remember I told you that armor class 0 was kind of like armor class 20. Um, this basically means that in 2nd edition he had a +17 attack bonus. He only has to roll a 3 on a 20-sided die in order to hit an armor class 20. And he has a +20 attack bonus with his mace, because his mace is a +3 mace. So he can hit you with his bite for with a roll of 3 on a 20-sided die, and the only way he can miss you with his mace is if he rolls a nat 1. So his bite attack will do 3d4 damage. His mace attack does 1d10 plus 10 damage. And his full attack is the bite and the mace. Now, he's bumped up. His magical resistance is bumped up. He's 70% magic resistance. This time it means you cast a spell at him. DM rolls percentile die. If it's 70 or lower, Just don't even bother resolving the spell because Amon just ignores it. It doesn't have any effect on him. Don't care what spell it is. Don't care what you're trying to do. Don't care if you try to affect him with a wish. 70 or below, okay, he just ignores it. He's immune to cold. He has that fear-causing gaze. He also has spell casting and yada yada, all the spells he can do. And then other special abilities. Well, he has that regeneration of 1d12 hit points per round. But now he doesn't take any damage from attacks unless you are trying to attack him with a +2 or better magic weapon. So all of your adamantine weapons, no effect. All of your holy weapons, no effect. Has to be +2 magic or better in order to hit him. All right, now in 3rd edition. Okay, now he's starting to get really kind of to be a more serious threat. His armor class has bumped way up. Now his armor class is a 36, which in 5th edition, it's almost impossible to hit a 36 armor class. I mean, you have to have a really, really incredibly good attack bonus or roll a nat 20. 26d8 plus 234 hit points. So a hit point total of 351. He is supposedly a CR 18 monster. Now he gets 4 attacks with his mace and 1 attack with his bite. And in 3rd edition, if you got multiple attacks, you took a -5 penalty on every attack after the first. So his attack bonus, the first attack with the mace, is a +37. Then with a -5 bonus, his second mace only has a +32 attack bonus. Then his third attack with the mace only has a 27 attack bonus. And his fourth attack with the mace only has a 22 attack bonus. And then his bite has a +29 attack bonus. And that +3 mace, in 3rd edition, it deals 4d6 plus 18 damage plus 1 vial. Now, there were these tags and everything, and I didn't look it up because it's been so long since I played 3rd edition. But vial basically is like an evil type of tag that Damage had in 3rd edition. He gets 4 of those attacks per round. Then his bite is 2d8 plus 5 damage. Now he is resistant. He has damage resistance 25 / +3. What does that mean? Well, that means if you hit him with a weapon that is worse than +3, so non-magical, magical +1, magical +2, you have to deal at least 26 points of damage for him to take any damage at all. Because he's just going to ignore the first 25. Now, you hit him with a +3 weapon, you hit him for 3 hit points, he's going to take 3 hit points. That's what that /+3 means. He's immune to cold damage. He's got a fear aura 20-foot radius, DC 27 will save, and he's got spell casting. He's an 18th level caster. Spell save DC is 14 plus the spell level and all of those spells. Now, his other special abilities, he regenerates 5 hit points a round. You don't roll die anymore. It's just a flat 5 per round. And he can summon a devil 2 times per day. So that's his mechanical highlights in 3rd edition. All right, so where would we put Amon in a campaign? So basically, if you're a DM, since Amon doesn't technically exist in 5e, you could put him anywhere you want. You could either say, you know what, I want to go back to the... I have a campaign that's kind of inspired by Egyptian mythology. I want to go back to that image of Amon as an Egyptian deity, and I want to bring him there. Now, I may use some mechanical things from based on what they've given us in D&D. But I'm going to go ahead and and work on this. Now, one source I'll tell you right now, one source I did not look at, and I intentionally did not look at it because I didn't want to make this even more confusing. The request for the Monster Monday was Amon the Wolf, which is a devil. There, there have been in first edition D&D, and I think it was reprinted in perhaps second, maybe third edition, and I don't know if it's officially been done for any of the other editions. But there was this whole deities and demigods supplement, and it had stat blocks for pantheons from all throughout different cultures, histories, nationalities, everything like that, including the Egyptian pantheon. So there was an Amon, I believe there was an Amon Re in that one. And so you could kind of go back to that. That Amon Re and Amon the Wolf, two completely different monsters in D&D. So I did not cross the streams on those. So, if you want to use Amon as a deity, there is that source you can go and find, and I believe you can find that on Drive Through RPG or DM's Guild, the two websites that are out there that sell official copies, digitalized copies of the old D&D source books. Now, you could also have him appear as a powerful member of the deposed hierarchy of Geryon if you bring him in as a devil, the way that Gary Gygax created him in D&D. So since he's not strictly speaking in 5e, you'll have to decide how powerful you want to make him. And in lieu of the normal reskinning slide, I'm going to present a proposed version of him that you could use in 5e based on kind of how he's presented in 2nd edition and 3rd edition. And I've tried to tune him to make him more reasonable for 5th edition, because he seems a little bit weak in 2nd edition and a little overpowered in 3rd, and so you kind of have to split the difference, at least in my opinion, to make him a 5e monster. And let's see what that would look like. All right, so proposed 5th edition Amon the Wolf stat block. So armor class 22, hit points 2068 plus 182, for 299 hit points. Now, that's based on giving him a Constitution score of 24. His Constitution score in 3rd edition was 29. A Constitution of 29, that's reserved in 5e for things that have CRs in the high 20s. So that seems a little bit much for his Constitution score. His CR would be 18. He's got an attack bonus of plus 12 based on his strength of 22. Once again, in 3rd edition, his strength was 31. Again, kind of overpowered for his CR 18 monster. With his plus 3 gargantuan mace, he deals 2d6 plus 9 damage. With his bite, he deals 1d8 plus 6 damage. So his full attack would be 4 attacks per round if all he's doing is attacking, or 2 attacks per round and spell casting. So if he's doing his 4 attacks, it would be 3 attacks with his mace and 1 attack with his bite. And the other routine he would have is 2 attacks with his mace and spell casting. Now, resistances, because it's said that he has that magic resistance, I'm going to say that gives him advantage on saving throws against all spells. So you try to cast a spell at him, he gets advantage on his saving throw. And he has resistance to acid and poison damage. So you hit him with acid or poison, it's going to deal only half damage. Now, his immunities would be fire and cold. Now, why fire and cold? Because that's more in line with what 5th edition devils have. Special attacks, he has that fear aura. 20-foot radius, DC 19 wisdom save, and then he also has spellcasting. Now, I know that when I did the review of the new Monsters of the Multiverse book, I said I didn't like the way they presented spellcasting monsters, but because we're proposing a 5e stat block, and that is the official way that 5e works, I decided to just, partly because it's fewer spells to write out, and partly because it's just easier, I just decided to go with a more limited list. Now, again, this is looking at, 5 minutes, just sort of looking at spells that would be available to him, and pretty much, frankly, only looking at necromancy spells. So, this is just a rough draft. Feel free to change any of these, and feel free to give him a full casting block if that's what you want to do. So, whatever you would think would be appropriate for him. So at will, he could do Bane, Detect Magic, Chill Touch, Toll the Dead, Inflict Wounds, and Ray of Sickness. Twice per day, he could do Blindness, Deafness, Ray of Enfeeblement, Animate Dead, Bestow Curse, and once per day, he could do Contagion or Finger of Death. Now, I also said that basically, since he's a fairly high CR, he would get Regeneration 10, which is on par with what vampires get. Now, if you deal radiant damage or you hit him with holy water, that would prevent the regeneration. And once per day, he can summon 1d4 devils of CR4 or less, or he can summon one devil that's a CR6 to CR10. That would be kind of my proposed for what Amon the Wolf could do. Like it, don't like it, think he's overpowered, think he's underpowered, let me know in the comments over on the YouTube archive, or put it in the comments when we get ready to go to the Q&A. Sorry, everybody, I picked up a little bit of a tickle in the throat over the weekend. So, sorry about that. All right, and just a reminder, if you are on the stream tonight, please go ahead and give us a follow on Twitch or subscribe to the channel on Twitch. We'd love to have you with us as part of our community there. And if you are watching this in the archive over on the YouTube, then please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, and click the post notification bell so that you get notified every time new content drops on the channel. All right, and speaking of the Q&A, let's go and take a look and see what we have over here. All right, I don't see any questions yet. So what I am going to do, I'm going to go into the wrap up, and then I will check back to see if anybody has any more questions. All right, I have been DM Galabon. This has been Monster Monday. Amon the Wolf. All the shows should be back this weekend. We're past Memorial Day, and there's no more disruptions for soccer home matches until the middle of the month. So Sundays, we have our Walker of Waterdeep, which is our 5th edition campaign that crosses the streams between Magic the Gathering and D&D 5e. Wednesday nights, we have our Sword Coast Chronicles. It's also a 5th edition game where we are looking at we're telling a homebrew story through the lens of the published 5th edition campaigns. Right now, they are in the Tomb of Annihilation storyline, and they are exploring the Forbidden City of Omu in that campaign right now. Then Saturday night is our 2nd edition old school throwback game, where we are doing the original Temple of Elemental Evil using 2nd edition rules. And that's our Saturday night Greyhawk game. All of the streams are live on Twitch. All of the archives for those streams are live over on YouTube. Also, every Friday, we do a straight to YouTube video for the called Lore Friday, where we look at an adventure out of a published 5th edition campaign from Wizards of the Coast, and we look at how you can repurpose that. It's this week coming up is going to be the first in kind of a new format for that show, where instead of doing a deep dive on what the plot is and everything, we're going to summarize the plot, and then we're going to do a deeper dive on several different ways that you could repurpose that adventure and talk about how I might switch out the monsters, some of the elements of the adventure, but keep the main mechanics and structure of the adventure intact, so that so it saves you a little bit of prep time as a DM, and it helps you take this structure, plug it into a place that you might need it in your homebrew campaign. So we're going to be doing that with the chase sequence from Out of the Abyss, where the characters are trying to elude the drow and find their way back to the surface world. So join or keep a lookout for that premiere on Friday. Next week, we are going to get back to our series that we have been doing. We've been interrupted the last 2 weeks. Last week was interrupted with a new monster from the Monsters of the Multiverse. This week was interrupted with a viewer request for Amon the Wolf. But we are headed back to Strixhaven with the Relic Sloth, and we are going to finish up the monsters there. And then, after we finish up Strixhaven, like I said, there's going to be a change in the way we do the Monster Monday stream. So, more news for that later. All right, let me check and see if there are any questions at this point. All right, I don't see any questions. Well, thank you all so much for joining us on the stream. Once again, if you're in the chat, go ahead and subscribe to the Twitch channel or follow the Twitch channel. And then if you're watching on the archives, please subscribe to the YouTube, like the video, share the video, click the post notification bell. And I will remind you, watch out for the monsters under the bed. Good night, everybody.